Welcome, everybody. It's May 15th, Wednesday to be exact. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Hey, everybody. I can see your comments. Excellent. That means it's all working. Oh, how we doing today? What is it, Wednesday? Woo-woo. Oh, I do have water. Good. Let me make sure I had my water ready. Anyway, hello, all. Let me get, sorry, my TikTok still set up here. I may adjust the lighting. Let's see. A little less red. There we go. It's like you have to adjust the lighting on your skin for the right color. That's pretty good. It's funny, brighter lighting looks better, but then like too bright for me though, it's like a little bit of like, TV's like this too. You often get like blinded by TV. It's a little much. All right, let me get TikTok rolling here. Boom, go live. Exactly. BC, say where you're from. Hey Prexis. Hey Linda. All right. Mirror my video. There we go. All righty. Woo-woo! Oh, and I was going to put on my fan for my air conditioning, and I forgot. And I can only do it with my phone, which I now use for my camera for YouTube. So air is not going on. I guess I can lower the... Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. Hey, Penny on TikTok. How are you? Subscriber Penny. Oh, hey, guys. I'm not red as feet. Oh, don't say that, Sword. No, we're not going to... Don't do that. Not yet. Oh, hang on. All right. TikTok. All right. Unplugging and replugging TikTok. Let's see how it is now. Hopefully that works on TikTok. All right. I just unplugged and replugged. Is TikTok volume working now? Does that work? Let me know on TikTok. Okay. You can hear me. Excellent. Hey, Succeed. Yeah, TikTok does that sometimes. I did switch out my cord. I was using the, on TikTok, I was using the component that was getting old. Thank you, Moo. So I've got it plugged in. So now you should be getting my microphone. You can tell because I'm moving it back and forth. Very nice. Yes, wearing one of my new Singapore shirts. Now, there's always the risk. The shirt is going to be an issue, but I don't care. I don't care. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Alan. I assume the shirt's going to be an issue with reading the comments on TikTok. This is always an issue on TikTok because of the way it's set up. If my shirt's too light, people can't see the comments on TikTok. Thank you, John. But I'm tired of wearing black and blue. I want to wear shirts that are more fun occasionally. TikTok constrains me. Thank you, Carl Vincent, member for 7 months. Lovely. It's letting me know, I guess. Anyway, let me try this again. Alexa, lower the temperature 1 degree. Hopefully that's it. What are you doing? Alexa, what are you doing? God. Oh my God. Alexa, what is the temperature set to? She's driving me crazy.
The AC is set to 73.
Okay. Alexa, set the AC to 72.
The AC is set to 72.
Yay! There we go. Okay. Sometimes it screws up. Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, in any case, I decided I wanted to try to wear my... So this is one of my new Singapore shirts. Very exciting. Woo, woo, woo. My nephew and I got them at some department store there, and they were pretty cheap. Well, relatively cheap. We got them on sale. I mean, they weren't cheap, but they were pretty cheap. They were probably like 30 or 40 bucks on sale, which isn't really bad, considering people pay ridiculous amounts for these shirts, and we were not going to pay ridiculous amounts. Anyway, thank you, Pedro. Thank you, Mary, for the gifts. So welcome, everybody. Thank you, Christopher Monroe, for subscribing. Appreciate that, Christopher. Anyway, so how are folks doing? We are going to start the show. As you know, this is my nightly show I do Monday to Friday. Thank you, Elizabeth, for the gifts. 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. We talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Thank you, Suzanne, for the TikTok Join My Team hearts. I talk about the latest news from Ukraine. My background's foreign policy, journalism, political advocacy, politics in Washington. Thank you, Courtney. And I will go and sort of try to walk you through the stories that I think matter, what's actually going on. And then the second half of the show is your guys' comments, questions, discussion. I will sometimes see your comments as we're talking now, and I will certainly grab those as well. Thank you, Ellie, for the hearts and the hands. My voice and throat got better. Yeah, actually, my throat was what was getting weird, Julian. I was getting some weird, I was almost getting like a sore throat starting. And my sister had some of that oil of oregano you guys were recommending. Thank you, Marie. And I swear to God, boom, it was gone. So very nicely. It is not a dog shirt. I think is it a panda? I don't even remember. No, it's flowers. It's flowers that look like a panda, I think. Help me out here, folks. Am I right? I think it's flowers that look like a panda. It was kind of fun. Thank you, John, or Josh, for the... Oh, and Sally. Thank you, Sally, our new subscriber on YouTube. Sally, thank you. I appreciate that very much, Sally. All right, guys, let's get rolling here. I know pandas are cute. I think it's flowers, though. Pretty sure it's flowers. But honestly, I'll take pandas, too. If we can go for flower pandas. Yeah, let's get rolling here. We will start with the Czech Prime Minister. Thank you, Courtney. So today is day 811 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. The big story today is the assassination attempt on the Slovak, I may have said Czech, the Slovak Prime Minister. Interesting story. So, thank you, Nicholas. This is the big pro-Putin guy. There's two big pro-Putin guys in Europe right now. One is Prime Minister of Hungary, Orban, who's just a big piece of garbage, and the other one is this guy who's better than Orban, but he's still pretty bad. He's pro-Russian. He opposes aid to Ukraine. Thank you, Linka and Elizabeth, for the gifts. He cut off all military aid to Ukraine once he was elected. He was elected last September, October or so. Not a good guy. Yeah, he's pro-Russian, cozy with Putin, etc. Somebody tried to kill him today. They did a very good job of it. He is in critical condition. The latest news from the Slovak government was, as of a couple hours ago, they said the next 4 hours were going to be critical in terms of whether he lives or dies. So he's in really bad condition. Lone gunman, guys under arrest. The guy's like around 70 years old, 69 or 71 years old. Slovak gunman. They're still trying to figure out why. The police are saying it was a political motive. I mean, he tried to assassinate the prime minister. I'm going to assume there was a political motive, right? I mean, this is, that's kind of stupid. It wasn't like he was robbing him. So that doesn't really tell us much. The party, mind you, this guy represents a pro-Russian party. They're anti-NATO, they're anti-European Union, they're pro-Russian, they're anti-Ukraine. Doesn't mean he should be shot, but his party is already jumping on the bandwagon and accusing, because again, these are not Democrats. And when I say Democrats, I mean small d. These are not people who are very friendly to democracy. They're friendly to Russia. They're already attacking the opposition and the media, of course, for being critical of this guy. Well, and it led to the assassination because they were all critical of him. Well, the reason the media has been critical of this guy and the opposition is critical of this guy, it appears he may have had the hand in an assassination of a journalist back in 2018 who was investigating corruption of his government, and there were mass protests around the country, and the guy was forced to step down because this investigator was murdered for investigating his corruption. So there's a very good reason why people have been critical of this guy. And it's sort of classic authoritarian and I mean, we have it in our country too, where something bad happens and the bad guys immediately jump on it and try to blame you for it. Smart people tend not to do, I should say smart, ethical people tend not to do that because you don't know. This guy could have been killed by a madman. He could have been killed by less than a madman, but somebody with political motives. But the political motives could have been anything, left, right, in between. He could have been killed by the Russians. Could have been killed by the Ukrainians. I think it's very unlikely he was killed by the Ukrainians. The Russians are trying to claim it. Why do I say that? Because he doesn't matter. He's small bits. If the Ukrainians were going to be crazy enough to kill a European leader because the European leader is too close to Russia, I got news for you. This isn't the guy they're going to go after. The guy they'd go after would be Viktor Orban in Hungary, right? He's important. This guy is nothing in Slovakia. So that doesn't quite make sense. And there's too high of a risk, obviously, right? Ukraine gets caught trying to kill a European leader. That's the end of aid to Ukraine from the European Union, right? So there's no way the Ukrainians would arrest it. Russia, interesting. Could it have been Russia? Yes. On its face, this guy's pro-Russian, so that wouldn't be a reason why they'd try to kill him. No, I don't think it. Right now, I don't think it was the Russians. I think it was some crazy person in Slovakia. So some crazy Slovak for some crazy Slovakian reason killing this guy that has nothing to do with Ukraine. But could the Russians want to if I were the Russians, right? We know the Russians like to play, 11th dimensional chess or whatever, right? where basically rather than just do something up front, they like to play games. So like, is it possible that the Russians came up with a plan to kill a pro-Russian leader in Europe to try to create an anti-Ukraine outburst? Sure. Is that the kind of thing the Russians would do? Yes. Do I think the Russians did it? I'm not convinced. But nonetheless, we don't know what's up yet. But the guy is in very, very critical condition. It's also just not a good thing because, political assassinations in developed countries don't happen a lot, thank God. And you don't want them to happen. You don't want a political culture established of political assassinations. So, in any case, not great news. In terms of the war itself, the situation looks like it's stabilizing in the east. Can we buy a verb here? Hang on. There we go. I was going to say our trolls today are not using verbs, it seems. So, sorry, we had a troll that was like, stop lie, stop lie, stop lie? Stop lying, maybe? That might work a little better. Stop your lying. But yes, you don't want assassinations to become the norms. That's very bad and very dangerous in any country, especially countries where this stuff doesn't happen. In any case, the situation in the east. So, the last few days we've been worrying extensively about fighting in eastern Ukraine near Kharkiv. And what's been going on is the Russians are playing a bit of a game here. They've been going after a town of Vovchansk and other towns in the area here, around here. They may also be trying to go after a little bit up here. And what they're trying to do is a couple different things. One, they're trying to screw with the Ukrainians. They're trying to force the Ukrainians to move troops from over here in the east and move them up here to defend near Kharkiv, because Kharkiv is such an important city. It's Ukraine's second largest city. The Ukrainians can't afford any risk of the Russians potentially taking that town or posing a risk to it. So the fact that the Russians are now coming across the border here and they're amassing up here near Sumy, the Ukrainians have no choice but to move troops up here. Well, when the Ukrainians move troops here, the troops aren't fighting over here, right? So that's the deal. Thank you, Pizdolis. That's the deal with why the Russians are doing this. They're trying to basically force the Ukrainians to split themselves too thin, put their troops everywhere. The second thing the Russians are trying to do is they're trying to get a little bit of a foothold here to push the Ukrainians south. This is the border with Russia. There's a big Russian town called Belgorod right here, maybe 20. Okay, Kharkiv is maybe 10 miles from or 20 miles from the Russian border, 30 kilometers. Go another 10, 20 miles across the border, and you hit the Russian town of Belgorod. Well, the Ukrainians are able to hit Belgorod with HIMARS and artillery and other stuff. Well, if they were allowed to by the Americans, we're going to get into that in a second. They can't use the HIMARS and they can't use American artillery to go after Belgorod because the Americans won't let the Ukrainians fire into Russia because that might make Vladimir Putin angry, and we don't want to make Vladimir Putin angry. But the Ukrainians still have found other weapons of their own making that they've been able to attack Belgorod, and the Russians don't like it. So the Russians want to push down here a little bit, push the Ukrainians south. And as the Ukrainians get pushed south, what happens? The range of their weapons gets pushed south. So it makes it harder and harder for the Ukrainians to hit Belgorod, the Russian town here. So that's what's also going on around here. Zelensky announced the last couple of days we were getting worried. Budnov, the military intelligence chief, had said the situation was very bad. I told the New York Times, I think it was on Sunday. Zelensky is now saying that things are looking better. Yes, I see HGM3RK or High Mark, whatever that is. Zelensky's saying that's changed today. He's saying it. Institute for the Study of War, which is a big defense think tank that we like. Hey, Serg, good to see you on TikTok. Institute for Study of War, the defense think tank we like, says that it looks like the pace of the Russian attacks is slowing down. So it looks like things are stabilizing, which is what Zelensky said is happening. So that's a good thing. Let's see what happens next. I mean, the Ukrainians are still outnumbered. The Russians have more men. The Russians have more artillery. The Ukrainians are low on not just artillery, they're low on missile defense. Patriot missiles. They also don't have enough Patriot missile systems, which is just freaking annoying as hell. I mean, this again, you know this. I get very upset with this issue because we did a shitty job of helping Ukraine. And I compare it to grading a paper. I've done cancer. I've compared it to cancer before too, but you can even compare it to a paper. You could write a very good paper that gets a B instead of an A. In American system, a B would be, I don't know, maybe 13. In Europe, something like that. 13 out of 20. You can get a B instead of an A. An A would be a 16 in France. You can get a B. A B plus maybe even. A B plus is very good. But a B plus isn't an A. It means you have some errors. Biden's approach to Ukraine had some errors. It had some glaring errors. He was afraid of Putin. He was afraid to get Ukraine the weapons they needed. Now, mind you, part of the problem was the French and the Germans. They were even more afraid than Biden was at the beginning. And I think Biden reined himself in because the French and Germans were like, whoa, we're going to pull out of the coalition if you give them too much. So we didn't give Ukraine everything it needed. It took us a year to even get Ukraine Patriot missiles, guys. I mean, to me, that's almost the best example of how screwed up our aid to Ukraine has been. Thank you, Cool and Cheryl, for the roses. Think about this. Ukraine's getting destroyed by the Russians in the first year. I mean, they've done it since, too. But just obliterating Ukrainian cities, especially Kharkiv in the east. Thank you, Adventurers, for the gift. Especially Kharkiv in the east. And, oh, bam! Yeah, he's gone. Again, troll. I do talk too fast, but I love that. You talk too fast. Your heart, I don't believe, you're not believable. Talking fast is, I just had coffee, by the way. Talking fast is not good, and I try to slow down, but talking fast is not an indication that I'm not believable. That makes you a troll, but that's okay. We like it when they out themselves. Thank you, Wolford, for the tiny diny. The Patriot missiles is the best example. We were afraid to give Ukraine Patriot missiles for a year. We refused. We didn't give them Patriot missile batteries or the missiles. The missiles come with a whole system to operate them, okay? Radar, the whole thing. Thank you, Martin. We refused for a year. Why? Right? I mean, Biden early on was like, oh no, we're not sending planes. Oh no, thank you, Annie, for the beret. We're not sending fighter jets. We weren't even going to send. We wouldn't even let the Poles send MiG fighter jets to the Ukrainians at the beginning of the war. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Lamchok, for the gifts. That's one thing. Okay, I mean, I think he was wrong, but that's one thing to say, well, fighter jets would have been way too much too soon, freak the Russians out. Okay, but we wouldn't even send the Ukrainians Patriot missiles, which have no offensive capacity. They are not for attacking the Russian ground troops or something, right? The Patriot missiles are used for attacking Russian missiles coming in to bomb Ukraine, or maybe drones too, but coming in to bomb Ukraine. That's it. The missiles that were coming in to kill Ukrainian civilians. And we were too afraid of Putin to give them the damn Patriot missiles just to shoot down the Russian missiles that were attacking civilian apartment buildings in Kyiv and in Kharkiv. That's bullshit. I mean, I just don't know of a better way to put it. You know what I mean? It's just, you know this. I'm not gonna get off on this topic again, but it's important because as we talk about how the war is going, you've got to go back to the original sin, which was we pulled punches. We did not help Ukraine to the extent it needed to be helped, and each step of the way, that let Russia be much more successful than it could have been. Well, now, take it to right now. The reason I was kind of getting into this, you now have the Russians in eastern Ukraine, as I said, causing trouble, okay? Near Kharkiv. Right here. The Russians have been building up for several months near here. They've been building up across the border. We knew the Russians had like 50,000 men or something across the border. The Ukrainians couldn't attack them. Why not? Because we wouldn't let them. We wouldn't let them use the HIMARS. Remember the famous HIMARS? We wouldn't let them use it because the Ukrainians would have been attacking into Russia. That's not allowed. We wouldn't let them use our missiles. We wouldn't let them use our ATACMS we gave them. Remember the ATACMS missiles that we've been waiting forever that we finally gave them? We said, you can't use them to fight into Russia. So what did the Russians do? This battle going on right now that you're hearing all about, and you're hearing about how, Ukraine's in trouble, or at least in trouble that it's losing a number of villages, right? We told them they could not fire at the Russians that were gathered here using our weapons. 50,000 Russians were sitting ducks here with all of their equipment and all of their men. And we told them, you can't attack, sorry. And the Ukrainians had to wait for these idiots to come across the border and start taking Ukrainian land because we told them no. Now, that did not change. Sorry, I saw somebody say that changed. That did not change at all. Hold on. Alexa, set the temperature to 73. Sorry, getting a little cold. The only thing, and I realize I may have changed all of your temperatures around the world. Sorry, it's getting warm and cold around here. But yeah, it's Blinken did not say so today. No, he didn't. What Blinken said today, Secretary of State's in Ukraine, he was asked again, and he said, I've got to pull up the exact quote. He said, we don't want Ukraine attacking Russia, but it's up to them what they do with their missile systems or with their weapons. There is just as good a chance that instead of that being, oh, Blinken's giving, wiggle room, saying it's up to them, it is just as possible that what Blinken said was, we can't tell them what to do with the weapons, but we've told them what to do with the weapons. We said, don't attack Russia. I mean, when your biggest benefactor says, don't attack Russia. No. And by the way, the fact that we're discussing this means Blinken did not say anything today. Had Blinken been clear to our Secretary of State, had he been clear, that's the problem. Well, but that's exactly the problem, Gunnerman. Gunnerman says he left it to interpretation. That's exactly the problem, though, right? If you're trying to stop Russia and you're trying to let the Ukrainians know that, yes, you can use our weapons to attack in Russia, you say it. You don't make it confusing and say, well, our preference is that they don't do it. Well, the very fact that you and I are debating what they mean means the Ukrainians are debating what they mean, and it means the Russians are debating what they mean. Thank you, Janice, for the gift. I don't think the gloves are, first of all, Gunnerman, again, I hope you're right, but honestly, even if the gloves are off, Biden can go to hell as far as I'm concerned. We're 2.5 years into this war. A lot of Ukrainians are dead, and Biden just took the gloves off? Seriously? Again, I'll compare it to having cancer. Your doctor diagnoses you with cancer, and 2 years after the cancer has gone from stage 2 to stage 4 and spread all over your body, the doctor goes, okay, I know we were going slow, but now we're taking the gloves off because you're going to die. Well, F you, not you. Biden, there is no excuse. There is no excuse for taking the gloves off at this point. I don't think Biden has, but even if he did, what a bunch of crap. And the Republicans withheld aid for 6 months, which was a huge disaster. And I was watching the foreign correspondent on CNN say it. Wall Street Journal correspondent said it today. That by the Republicans killing aid to Ukraine for 6 months, it was a gift to the Russians, and it's another reason why the Russians are doing so well right now in eastern Ukraine, because the Republicans killed the aid. But you know what? I'm going to say it again. Where the hell was Joe Biden the last 6 months? Biden sat on his butt and occasionally gave speeches. And again, I've worked in Washington for 40 years, guys. I know how this stuff works. You don't sit on your ass for 6 months and say nothing while nothing's happening, okay? I was at a wedding in Philadelphia this weekend. My cousins were asking me about how the war is going and everything because they know I cover this. And one of my cousins says to me, who's very up on stuff, but he's not a foreign policy guy, right? He says to me, this whole Ukraine thing, it's kind of like off the radar now. Like we never hear about it anymore. And I said, yeah, that's right. You don't. Right. Because Biden didn't want you to hear about it. Do I think Biden's like Chamberlain? Yes and no. The problem is you can't make a direct comparison, Brian. Brian's talking about like the British premier back in heading up to World War II, making all sorts of concessions to the Germans to try to stop World War II, and basically by making concessions to the Germans, gave them the incentive to go, this is great, right? Like, they're going to appease the hell out of us. Let's just go crazy, right? Biden did not appease the hell out of the Russians. Biden stood up to the Russians. Biden gave Ukraine a lot of help. Biden got the international coalition together. I would say Biden's the single most reason why the world community was able to come together for Ukraine. That doesn't mean the Brits and the Canadians and others weren't really strong, right? But who got the world community together? It was the U.S. Thank you, Super Hornet. But then he screwed up. So, it's really, like I said, this is very upsetting for me. All right, more news. Yes, the alternative is far worse, as Annette just said. But again, I'm not going to give Biden props for being better than Trump. That's like, again, being better than cancer. Okay. Right? Okay. Good for you. And of course, I'm going to support him over Trump if you care about that. It was the Trump in the GOP House. It was. But it was also Biden. Biden could have gotten aid before the House got taken over by the Republicans. He could have gotten another $60 billion in aid passed. He didn't try. He waited until the Republicans took over, and then he sat on his ass for 6 months and did nothing. I mean, I'm sure he tried to work quietly behind closed doors. Well, guess what? When you work quietly behind closed doors, there's no political pressure at all. The other problem is the American people don't care about Ukraine anymore. I mean, they care in the poll like this much, but it's not talked about anymore. Biden doesn't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. And this is also because of the American elections. I think Biden absolutely wanted to sort of not talk about Ukraine anymore, thinking that it was going to somehow hurt him in the election by talking about Ukraine because Republicans had so poisoned the atmosphere. Oh, thank you, Blue Ariel. Very nice gift. I appreciate that. Thank you, Running, as well, for the hearts. Whatever. It just really, really pisses me off. All right. More news. I did start talking about the Slovak Prime Minister, Nina. Basically, he's in critical condition, and they've said that the next 4 hours, the next couple hours at this point, really, are going to be crucial as to whether he lives or dies. This was the Slovak Prime Minister that was tried to get assassinated today. Is it too late for Ukraine to win? I worry it is. Some people will tell you no. Like I said, Callum is off and on here. Callum, I think, is with us. He's usually like hiding in the background, who's former British military. Callum thinks it's not too late. There's lots of weapons we could get the Ukrainians to help them turn it around. My problem isn't too late in the sense that it's not just a question of are we basically now stuck in a stalemate, so it's too late. My problem is it's too late politically. The first couple of years, we had the American people on our side. Thank you, Doughboy. Republicans in Congress were kind of afraid to be too pro-Putin. I mean, the MAGA people were pro-Putin, but the Republicans were kind of, being careful at least to a degree. That's gone now. We've given, 60 million in military aid to Ukraine, like 100 million or 100 billion, maybe 100 billion total with all other aid. Once you've given that much money, it's hard to ask for another 100 billion and another 100 billion and another 100 billion. It gets harder and harder as time goes on. And what worries me is I think Biden had an opportunity at the beginning to win this war, and he blew it. And now it's going to be harder because are we really going to get Ukraine the weapons for another huge counteroffensive? Really? You think politically that's going to fly? I don't think it's going to fly. And even more so because, as I said, Biden doesn't talk about it. He doesn't talk about it. Why the hell are the American people going to support another 100 billion for Ukraine when Biden spends no time at all explaining to the American people that this war matters? If you're not going to tell people that it matters, next time it comes up, they're going to go, what are you talking about? Ukraine? I haven't heard about that thing in months. You want more money? Right? That's not the way. I am an expert in political marketing. It's what I do. It's what I've done for 40 years now. And the way you win in terms of convincing people to do what you want is repetition again and again and again and again. And you've also got to find crafty ways of doing it. Donald Trump is the perfect example. The man is a liar. He's a crook and a criminal. Okay? He's immoral. He's unchristian. He's in favor of Americans' allies. But he knows how to message. The guy knows how to message. Thank you, Bryce. He repeats his talking points again and again and again. And again, you know what I'm talking about. You think of Trump and you think of his messaging, the Biden crime family, right? Again and again and again. Crooked Hillary, that was the name he gave Hillary Clinton. Crooked Hillary, again and again and again, right? Right? And you are a troll. Yeah, that's a foreign troll, by the way, the one you just muted there. Rock Hill. They were pretending to be American, by the way, that one. I can tell. I can always tell like the accents that the trolls had. That was a foreign accent, believe it or not. The Biden crime family, right? Trump, remember, build a wall. Mexico will pay. Ban the Muslims. That was Trump's big cry in the first election. He was going to ban the Muslims, Muslim ban. And he did. He did a Muslim ban. Muslims coming in from Middle East. But Trump knows about marketing. Thank you, Ginger. And two main things in marketing, political marketing, any marketing, come up with something catchy, something that catches people's attention. In Trump's case, it's his bombast, it's his outrageous behavior, right? And the way he's like, oh, this kind of stuff. And it's the language. He comes up with the language that he uses to attack Crooked Hillary, Biden crime family, language, build a wall, right? Language that catches. And then he repeats it again and again and again and again and again. Now Joe mentions. Thank you, Elizabeth. Joe mentions the sort of adage that might be from Goebbels. I'm not sure. The German. You tell people something enough, and if it's a lie, people will believe it. It's more than that. If you tell people something enough, period, they will believe it and it will stick in their head. It doesn't matter if it's a lie or the truth. That's what's important. Because some people think, well, the Republicans lie and we don't want to lie, right? So they think, oh, Trump is a bad example because he's a bad man. This works whether you're telling the truth or a lie, right? You've got to have a message that resonates, catchy phrases, things like that, and then you talk about it again and again and again and again and again. And you do it nonstop. And that's what Trump gets. It's what Republicans get. And Democrats, I will say this to my dying day, because it's something I've been complaining about for 35 years now, since I started working in Democratic politics a long time ago. Well, I started working in Republican politics, actually. Worked in Democratic politics, too. Democrats suck at messaging. They don't believe in messaging. They're bad at it, but they also don't believe in it. I am convinced that Joe Biden literally doesn't believe in messaging. He doesn't like it. His people suck at it, and they suck at it because he sucks at it. I am convinced Biden is just like, you know what? Obama used to believe this too. Obama used to believe this idea of, good news sells itself. I mean, he never said that, but I'm saying it. The idea that, we're the good guys. And if we're the good guys doing good things, we don't need to sell our stuff, because if we sell it, that's cheesy. That's sleazy, right? Liars sell their stuff, right? Good guys don't. And all that happens is your stuff doesn't sell and the bad guy's stuff does sell. Well, no, repeated messages are used by everybody. North Korea is also crazy, so their repeated message may not resonate as well because they're nuts. But messaging is so important, and Democrats don't message. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Anyway, you got to sell what you're doing in order to make it successful. And you've got to sell what you're doing in order to make sure it's not repealed as well. That's the other thing. Because you don't want it, you've got to, once you pass legislation, pass support for Ukraine, you've got to keep defending it. Because you don't want the bad guys to convince the public, oh, this was a bad idea, right? Oh, that Obama healthcare proposal was bad. Or, oh, this aid to Ukraine didn't work. Or my favorite, because the Republicans still do this, the MAGA people who are pro-Russia will sit there and say, transparency, we don't know where any of the money's going. We know where all the money's going. Are you kidding me? Every weapon system to a fault has been announced publicly, practically. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous to what degree we have said publicly where the money is going in Ukraine. We've practically written it down for the Russians, telling them where the money went. You know what I mean? In any case. All right. A little more news here. What have I got here? Oh, New York Times had an article today talking about what's going on in eastern Ukraine, why the Russians are doing better, at least right now. I'm going to read this to you. Okay, listen to this. After months of slow Russian ground advances and technological leaps in countering American-provided arms, the Biden administration is increasingly concerned that President Putin is gathering enough momentum to change the trajectory of the war and perhaps reverse his once bleak prospects. Because of the delay in U.S. funding, they mean MAGA Republicans cutting off money to Ukraine, Russia has been able to achieve a huge artillery advantage over Ukraine. The lack of air defense ammunition has also allowed Russia to use its air power with more impunity, attacking Ukrainian lines with glide bombs. With more air defense ammunition, Ukraine would be able to force those planes farther back, making it more difficult for Russia to attack from the air. These are things Ukraine couldn't do because we cut off the money, okay? The delay in American supplies has been matched by a similarly long delay by Ukraine. This is Ukraine's fault, by the way, as well. A similarly long delay by Ukraine in approving a mobilization law to bring more and younger soldiers into its military. Ukraine is suffering acute shortages of soldiers and is struggling to provide adequate training to those it brings into the military. 2 more paragraphs from the New York Times, and we'll go on. But all those Russian advantages will not last indefinitely, and Russian forces are likely to make a push this summer, said Michael Kaufman, a Russia expert at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace in Washington. Michael Kaufman, very good Russia expert, very highly respected Russia expert. He says in 2024, the Russian military enjoys a material advantage and the strategic initiative, though it may not prove decisive. This year represents a window of opportunity for Russia, but if the Russian military is not able to turn these advantages into battlefield gains and generate momentum, there's a fair chance that this window will begin to close as we enter 2025. What worries me with that is he's saying that Russia's advantage right now may continue until next year. And there's what did he say? A fair chance. A fair chance means, to me, a fair chance means 40%. Doesn't even mean 50. Fair might be 50. I don't think it's 50. That the window will close on Russia being that effective in attacking Ukraine. So anyway, it worries me. It worries me. Oh my God. All right, be nice. All right, well, I don't know what's going on. Be nice to people. All right, YouTubers, Manda, people are being, okay, I was going to say, Manda's there. Just tell people to stop being mean. All right. I can tell. I don't know what's going on, but I'm watching the comments. I'm like, stop it. Amanda has my full authority to get you, so be nice. All right, let's keep going here. Thank you for the heart, Wayne. Biden and Zelensky may meet to sign a security agreement in the coming weeks. Not at all clear what that means, in fact, because we already know, the U.S. aid is coming. We got $61 billion. Thank you, Marcia. And thank you, who's at Matunda? And Marcia again. Thanks, John. I assume you mean I'm the best, but I'll take the beat as well. That works for me, too. Thank you, Derek, for the heart. Oh, here it is. This was the quote from Blinken earlier today. So what our Secretary of State said in Ukraine when asked about whether the U.S. supports Ukraine using our weapons to attack within Russia. Thanks, Robert. He said, Washington has not encouraged Ukraine to strike inside Russia with U.S. weapons, but the decision is up to Kyiv. I don't know what the hell that, if the Ukrainians know what that means, more power to them, because I don't know what the hell that even means. All I know is about 6 to 8 weeks ago, we said outright that Ukraine shouldn't use our weapons to attack. We were pissed that they were going after oil refineries and stuff. So, how's the aid being paid for? The way everything else is paid. I don't know. How is Donald Trump's $2 trillion tax cut being paid for? The aid's a drop in the bucket. If you can show me how Donald Trump's $2 trillion tax cut is paid for, I will tell you how $60 billion in aid is being paid for. But I'm not too worried about it. Thank you, John. Because, unfortunately, people who complain about Ukraine aid don't actually, the price, don't actually care about the price. Oh, it's not a waste of our money at all. Are you kidding? We spent $100 billion and we've destroyed the Russian military. Do you know how many trillions we would have had to spend to cause this much pain to Russia? An incredible amount. Thank you, John. Thank you, Marcia. Now, unless you're pro-Russian, then you don't like it. I can appreciate that. But if you're pro-American, the Ukrainians did an amazing job hurting the Russian military, setting them back for years, at least making it less likely that Russia could effectively attack Europe, because a lot of Russia's troops have been killed. 450,000 troops have been killed or injured. A lot of their weapons have been destroyed. Russia's rebuilding, but it's costing them a ton of money. So, you can't get this. And we'll never change people's minds, the bad guys. But we had some trolls saying this, and I think it's important to occasionally, as I said, messaging. I like to remind people of some of the arguments as to why it is we're helping Ukraine and how it benefits us, because it's important to get that out there again and again, even though some bad people will never change their mind. All right, more here. European Union ambassadors agreed on a broadcast ban of key Russian propaganda outlets, including Rossiska. Oh, hey Maggie, thank you for the swan. Rossiyskaya Gazeta, Voice of Europe, RIA Novosti, and Izvestia. And finally, some news on the Peace Summit. There is going to be a Peace Summit in mid-June, in Switzerland. 50 countries, 50, have already said that they're coming. Oh, hey, hello in Thailand. Good to see you. Uraipon. I'll call you Uraipon for lack of a better name there, I guess. Anyway, good to see you in Thailand. That's always nice. We don't always see Asians here because the time difference. Well, sure, because right now in Asia, for a lot of you, it's going to be 7 a.m. Sorry, it's sort of the time I do my show. But in any case, the summit will be held in Switzerland, June 15th and 16th. We'll focus on peace in Ukraine under the terms of President Zelensky's 10-point plan. They will formulate a peace plan, and then it will be presented to Russia. I mean, it's not going to matter, to be honest. I don't quite understand the purpose of these peace summits. I mean, I guess, I don't know. I'm sure there's some diplomatic reason that these things are useful. I'm not convinced anything's going to come of it, but, whatever. All right, that is it for the news today. I will remind you all, we've got new auction items up. Woo, woo, woo. Very cool auction items. I auction stuff over at Discord. We've got a Discord community. You can find it actually via aravosis.com for you guys at YouTube. For you guys on TikTok, you can go to aravosis.com, my last name. It's also the name of my show here, Aravosis, my last name. But you can also go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link, that URL, and scroll. And like one of the first couple things is Discord. Click it. And when you get there, join our community. It's free. And you can look at the auctions on the left. Well, we auction a lot of cool stuff from Ukraine, some stuff from my trips as well. I was just in Indonesia and Singapore, so I got some cool stuff there. And auctioning stuff off that 50% of the proceeds from the auctions we put back into Ukraine. 50% goes to support my work because I do this for free and I do it full time. The only way I'm able to do this show is because of your guys' contributions and your donations, your gifts, the gift memberships you guys are doing. Thank you very much, by the way. The SNN members over on TikTok, everybody with an SNN next to their name, are the folks who are monthly subscribers supporting my work. Thank you for that. Thank you, your mommy, for hearts. On YouTube, same thing. All the green named people. I'm looking at Annette, Mike, Misha. Oh, Misha, I didn't realize. Misha, I don't remember what. Actually, Misha, I think you may have gotten, a couple of you got gifts from other people. I remember that. Yeah. Chris, Jillian, John, a bunch of you guys. So thank you. Yeah, let me show you a couple of the auction items because we got cool stuff this week. A few of them, really cool Ukrainian mug in the Vyshyvanka style. Ukrainian military patch. This is probably the second most popular patch, showing the trident. They come in different colors, but this one's pretty cool. A Ukrainian challenge coin. This is a commemorative, it's not a legal tender, but it's a commemorative coin showing the ghost of Kiev, who is a fighter pilot that took down a ton of Russian planes at the beginning of the war. Very cool. I like this because I like stuff like this. I got some beautiful hand soap in Singapore, in the airport, at the duty free, and it's this beautiful lavender orange coconut soap that is just, I love this stuff. Tomorrow is Vyshyvanka Day. Actually, mods, try to remind me of that so I don't forget that tomorrow's Vyshyvanka Day. Another thing we're auctioning off is another of our, I always forget if it's embroidery, needlepoint, you guys know what this is called, but Vlad picked up a number of really cool handmade fabrics in southwestern Ukraine. He gave me the name of the town. It was like, it wasn't Vinograd, it was something like that. Vivograd? Shoot, I'm forgetting now. But I've got it over at the Discord. You'll see the name. And these were made in the 1950s, 1960s by a family. I can show you guys. By a family. And, well, here, I can go back so you can see. They're table runners. They're the things you would lay down in the middle of the... I don't think it's not Vinnytsia. No. I said southwestern Ukraine on the border. Vinogradiv, that's exactly what it is, Jeremy. Yep, that's what it is. Vinogradiva, however you pronounce it, but that's what it was. Yep, thank you. Because initially Vlad spelled it with an I, and then he was like, no, and spelled it with a Y. Dresser, not table. Okay. So this would be the kind of thing you'd put on top of a dresser, basically, and then you'd put your, makeup and all that kind of stuff on top, I'm guessing. Okay. But anyway, it's really cool. It's handmade. I will show you just so you can see the stitching on the back. I mean, this thing is super handmade. And it's from the 1950s, 60s, and it's made by a woman and her family. The family is ethnically Hungarian, Slovak, and Ukrainian. And therefore, Vlad said, like, the styles of these things incorporated a little bit of each. Anyway, I love this kind of stuff because I just think it's very cool. And again, it's, vintage. So 1950s, 1960s, Ukrainian, handmade. I like sort of the handicrafts and stuff like that. You know what I mean? One or two. Oh, actually, you know what? One more thing I'll show you. One more thing I will show you. I think I showed you this yesterday. I did, actually, because Dawn had convinced us to buy these. We also got these pins, and the more I was looking at them, here it is. This pin, the more from Ukraine, actually not cheap, by the way. We spent a little bit on this, but it's this little pin, and you can see with the little Ukrainian heart, right, with the Ukrainian colors, blue and gold. What I think I realized looking at this today, if you look closely, because I was looking at the glass and I'm like, it's interesting because the glass is shattered, right? I was looking at this and I started thinking, shattered glass, it looks like a house, and the house's glass is shattered, but there's the Ukrainian heart on top of it. I may be wrong on this, but I've got a feeling that that's what's actually going on with this. That it's kind of this symbol of the war. It's stained glass, but I think it's actually symbolic of a home that's been bombed in essence, and the Ukrainian heart sort of surviving. Maybe not, but I saw that today and I went, oh God, I wonder if that's what this is. Anyway, very pretty. Has two little fasteners on the back. It's a pin. Well, here, you can see, just to see the size of it, Anyway, very pretty. So this we're auctioning off as well. We've got a lot of really cool stuff. Check them out. Check out our auction. It's very pretty. Yeah, like I said, Dawn convinced us. I was like, all right, Vlad, get us a few. So Vlad ordered it and then shipped it to me. Because and these were not cheap, I will say. So I started the bidding at around $30 on these. They cost more than that actually, but I started the bidding low-ish, so that hopefully it gets a little bit higher. But it actually could have been glass from a bombed out house too. That's a really good point. GF Ballman says it could have been. Yeah, I don't have any answers on that though. In any case, so yes, check out our auctions, guys. They're over at our Discord community. So you can find Discord, like I said, at aravosis.com, mylastname.com. Gives you the list of links of all of my links, my Discord, my Venmo, my PayPal if you want to help me out, my LinkedIn if you want to see my background. But you can also use it to go over to Discord and join our Discord community. So, all right, a little bit of water. Let's hang out and chat. All right. 3 things I respect about Russia, or things they're good at. Look, I've been to the Soviet Union and I've been to Russia. I liked the Russians I met. The Russians I met were very nice people. Very nice people. Not sure what to tell you beyond that, but I have met a lot of really nice, and I am absolutely auctioning off stuff of war because we're in a war, Indika, you may have noticed. And in order to save the lives of Ukrainians who are getting killed every day, and to save the troops who are getting slaughtered by people committing genocide, trying to wipe out their country, we are selling things from that country in order to save their freaking lives. So yes, we are auctioning off things from a war. Why do you have a freaking problem with that? So, spin, bye. Bye, troll. So, spin. Yeah. Spin. Tell it to the Ukrainians the Russians have murdered. Spin. Yeah, whatever. But again, she's pro-Russian anyway. Otherwise, she would have been like, you're auctioning off things of war. You think the Ukrainians have a problem with that? Us auctioning off things of war to raise money for Ukraine? I'm going to guess I've not met a single Ukrainian that's... Actually, Ukrainians thank us for that, but that's okay. But she's not Ukrainian. That's the whole point. Actually, that's the final point I'll make. She's speaking on behalf of Ukrainians, right? How could you auction off Ukrainian things? That's horrible. Except that she's not Ukrainian and she's pro-Russian. So it's like, okay. Anyway, no, this war will not lead to more Cold War. We're already in a Cold War because Putin led to the Cold War. Russia, after the Cold War, thank you, Marcia. Thank you, Simon. After the Cold War, 1991, Soviet Union went bye-bye, fell apart, all gone, evil empire ended. And we actually had a chance at peace with Russia. Russia had a chance to join the civilized world. Russia had a chance to join the developed world. We are absolutely in a Cold War again, I think, Jordan. Absolutely, with Russia. Now, it's back. Again, I don't know if we want to call it a Cold War or what we want to call it. There's a couple different things. One, Russia is not our equal. The Soviet Union was our equal in some ways. They weren't our economic equal. They were our military equal, but they were very powerful like we were around the world, right? Russia is not powerful. Russia is a weak second-rate country at this point. Misha, sorry, don't mean to offend you, but they're a weak second-rate country. Economically, they're second-rate. Culturally, frankly, they're second-rate. They weren't before, but it's you can point to what your country did 100 years ago with literature. If you can't point to something today, I'm not so proud. World War II, yeah, they're very proud of World War II. 100 years ago, we helped. 80 years ago. But it was 80 years ago. Try to find something more recent. In any case, but yeah, I think we're back in a Cold War. Unfortunately, Russia had a big chance. They blew it. They had a big chance in the 1990s to join the West, to join the real world, to join the civilized world, and Putin got elected, and what did he do? Yeah, ballet. They're still good at ballet, exactly. Sports, they dope a lot. so they use drugs with their sports. So I'm not going to give them credit for that. Ballet, I'm sure they're still excellent. They always have been. Beyond that, their vodka is made in Sweden now, I think. Unfortunately. Yeah, but writing novels, they were good at writing novels, right? Right? What do you do? Anyway, it is kind of a mafia state. It is. Very much so, Mr. Who. Yeah. No, it's unfortunate. But Putin is a bad guy. And he's turned Russia back into a dictatorship. And he's turned it back into a dictatorship that's trying to rule the world through basically genocide is what they're doing. Not basically. Well, the World Court has not accused them of genocide yet. The World Court has accused them of war crimes. We know that because of kidnapping children and things like that. But just very sad. Yeah, no, I've actually been, Rookinator, I actually visited Kamchatka in eastern Russia, which was fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I did go to the Far East, yeah. That's where I went. I was in Kamchatka. Absolutely. Now, we didn't get to meet the indigenous groups. I would have loved to have because I was working for the senator from Alaska at the time. That would have been really good. The Tucker Carlson interview, Tucker's an idiot. The good thing is that Tucker did a bad interview with Putin when he did it a few months ago. Thank you, Elizabeth. And Putin even made fun of him afterwards, which was kind of funny. So in the end, Tucker's interview didn't do much good, but Tucker was trying to help Russia and Putin present his worldview and convince the world of his worldview, which is really screwed up. Yes, I could not see Alaska, but we did stop on the way to Alaska. But anyway, Kamchatka was really interesting. Again, very nice people. Really in the middle of nowhere. Thank you, C3, for the hearts. They still had a statue of Lenin in the town square, which I thought was fascinating. Thank you, Mustard, for the hearts. Because it was like 1993, and there's a big statue of Lenin in the town square, and you're like, guys, move on, But, I believe it, isn't it? I'm trying to remember this, Jens. Wasn't, okay, I may be wrong about Sweden, but I remember that Stoli vodka has moved to Europe. It's no longer made in Russia. It's made in Europe. I thought it was Sweden. I may be wrong, but Google it. It's not really made in, it may be made in Holland too. I'm trying to remember. I thought it was Sweden though, that they moved to because they're not really made in Russia anymore. Because everyone tries to boycott. We did it too. We boycotted Stoli vodka at one point. Thank you, Marcin, for the hearts. Is it Lithuania? Marie's saying Lithuania. Maybe it is. Is it Lithuania? I thought there was some in Sweden too. I thought there was. Maybe it is Lithuania. But yeah, Stoli. It's not made in Russia anymore. Wait. Oh, they have moonshine in Russia because I had some. When I was in the Russia Far East, we were visiting. Absolute is Swedish. That's what it is. Okay, thank you, Pedro. I knew there was something Swedish with the vodka. Yeah. I visited the Russian Far East, Kamchatka. Petropavlovsk is the town. And we visited like the local, like steam bath, like the sauna, and then you jump in the snow and then jump in the sauna. I wasn't really in the mood to jump in the snow and jump in the sauna. My friends did, so I sat inside the cabin with the guy running it, who was like this young blonde ski guy, but in Kamchatka. Thank you, Aviation, for the gifts. And as my friends are in the sauna and jumping into the snow for like 2 hours, he pulls out a bottle of moonshine, gets like several slices of sausage and bread, because this is what the Russians do, and literally got me drunk for 2 hours. Now, I don't drink. I mean, I drink like, if I'm at a bar, I'll get a margarita or two, but that's it. I don't really drink. This guy was giving me moonshine for 2 hours. I was drunk off my ass. The Russians just get you drunk. It's very funny, actually. When you go into meetings, too, the Russians just pour you vodka at the beginning of a meeting, and you're like, oh, my God. 2 hours of this guy getting me drunk. It was the funniest damn thing. He ended up giving me his watch. The watch was a gift from his wife for his wedding, and his wife is now there with him, and she's just kind of looking at him, and I'm telling my friend who's doing the translating, I'm like, I can't take this guy's watch. It was the wedding gift from his wife, and my friend is translating. She's going, you have to take it. And Marion, you guys have met Marion before. She's a regular here with us, old friend of mine, and Marion, Marion is the expert in Russian law and Russian business. She said, you have to take his watch. You have no choice. So I gave him this headband I had, this ski headband I got from Kananaskis in Canada. And I told him, I said, it's from a famous ski resort in Canada, and he's a big skier. He was ecstatic that I gave him my ski headband, from Canada. So it was very It was very cute. The wife was not happy. And of course, the watch broke like 3 months after I got back to the States because it was a crappy Russian watch, but it was very cool. It just didn't work, sadly. So anyway, but no, the individual Russians can be incredibly nice, soulful people. Collectively, they elect some really bad people. Having said that, collectively, we don't do so well either lately. So, there's that too. Anyway, oh, that's interesting. Sword. So just reading about your mom. What else we got? Guys? So, all right, I'm done with the news. Comments. It's kind of hard too because I think I go through the news and then we sort of forget the stuff we talked about. You know what I mean? I like Obama. I'd be happy bringing back Obama. How many countries have I been to? 30, give or take 30. Because I just went to Singapore and Indonesia, but I'd been there before to both, although I hadn't spent much time in either until this trip. But nonetheless, I counted them. I was 24 hours in Singapore and Indonesia. I'd spent a couple weeks. So 30, which is, good. I mean, I'm very happy. I've been lucky enough to travel over the years. I want to travel again. It's been too long now. Autobiography, I don't think I want to, though. I've thought about it. I also don't know that I remember enough anymore. I didn't keep notes on purpose because literally I was told as a young person in Washington, D.C., don't take notes. The biggest mistake you can do is keeping a journal because if you ever work at the White House or somewhere else and you get sued or, congressional hearings, they're going to ask for your journal and then you're a diary and then you're in trouble. Thank you, Tom. So, I never kept a journal and I should have because I've got some of the funniest, bizarre stories that I've had over the years. What do you do? Philly was amazing. I did not get a cheesesteak because Philadelphians are tax cheats. They don't accept credit cards in Philadelphia. It was the weirdest freaking thing I've seen in my life. Multiple places we tried to go to, and they don't take credit cards. Talked to my cousin about this, and I said, "Is there any reason that multiple businesses in Philadelphia do not take credit cards, other than they're cheating on their taxes?" And he said, "No." This is my cousin who has his MBA from Stanford and is the most successful businessman I know. He said, absolutely no other reason. It was insane. The place we wanted to go to for breakfast across the street, no credit cards. I took a freaking Uber, and the Ubers are ridiculously expensive in Philadelphia. It's not clear why, but it's a scam they've got going in Philadelphia. Horrifically expensive Ubers. Took an Uber $20 to go like 15 minutes. I get there. I'm in line for 10 minutes. It's a 40-minute wait for the cheesesteak, like famous place in Philly, and they don't take credit cards. Well, ATMs are nice if you're somebody who actually has used money once in the last 10 years. I have never had a reason to use cash in 10 years now, other than when I went to Indonesia and I needed to change money. I literally never, ever, ever use cash anywhere. There's no reason to, ever. I go to the grocery store. That's where I spend money. There's nowhere else that I spend money other than the grocery store. Or online shopping, right? And yeah. And the woman even told me, she said, pretty much every cheesesteak, she even told me at the cheesesteak place, she said, every cheesesteak place in Philly doesn't take credit cards, pretty much all of them. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, tax cheat. Yeah. Unfreaking believable. It just pisses me off. Yeah, but that's bullshit. I'm sorry, Jen, but it's so expensive using credit cards. First of all, get with the program. The world runs on electronic cash. The world does not run on cash. Second of all, it costs 2 to 3%. Give me a break. You know what? Raise your prices 2 to 3%. Charge 2 to 3% more if I'm using a credit card. But cash means you're cheating on your taxes. And if you're a tourist, forget it. No, poor people do use cash if your business model is relying on poor people, I would say you've got a bad business model. So, and yes, I do speak a little too fast. I'm going to guess Chinese by the script. It looks like Chinese. I do speak quickly. Sorry. I speak a little too fast. You haven't met a tattoo artist that takes credit cards? I guarantee you it's about tax cheats. Yeah. Daniel saying, do you think Europe and the U.S. might force Ukraine to give up their land if they don't achieve? Yeah, they might. They may try. I think the Americans and the Europeans may try to pressure Ukraine at some point to basically accept some deal or some bargain or whatever. I think so. Now, they might do it in a cute, more careful way, right? Right? For example, saying, well, we just can't get you that much more money, right? Which isn't totally untrue, right, in the States, and kind of using that as leverage to try to push the Ukrainians. But I think they will. Yeah. I think they will pressure the Ukrainians. I think they probably already are to a degree, But anyway, the problem, I'll say this final point. The problem with ATMs is I haven't taken money out of an ATM in 10 years. I have no idea what my PIN number is. I have no idea. I mean, I'd have to get a new PIN number for maybe I'll have to get a new one, but I don't use it. So it's not like I can, I can get it. Is it Indonesia? I couldn't use an ATM. Except Indonesia actually I was able to use my credit card. I was able to use my credit card more in Ubud, Indonesia, Bali, the town of Ubud, than I could in Philadelphia. That's the quote. Now, that's an interesting question. Thunder asks, will Ukraine give up land to join NATO? If I were Ukraine, I would, because the problem is Ukraine faces an existential threat from Russia. I don't want to say Ukraine should give up land because that's, that's their decision to make, right? And that's a big deal, giving up land, giving up your country. But if Ukraine, I do not see a peace deal that works unless Ukraine is permitted into NATO. Because if Ukraine is not permitted into NATO, in 5 years from now, Russia's going to invade again, and they're going to take even more land, and the war is going to start again. So even from our perspective, we are not going to have a choice but to get involved in this war again. Europe will not have a choice but to get involved in this war again in 5 to 7 years if Ukraine is not a member of NATO. So in that case, if they had to give up some land and become a NATO member, it would suck. But at the same time, maybe you're preserving your country for good that way. I don't know. I mean, it sucks. Maybe you wait until Russia falls apart and you get your land back. You join NATO, and when Russia literally falls apart at the seams and dissolves into 50 countries, you get your land back. But that's exactly what I was saying, HG. Yeah, I think Russia comes back in 5 years anyway. Even if, no matter what Ukraine gives them, they come back in 5 years. So Ukraine would have to become a NATO member, or there's no way to stop Russia. Not just stopping Russia, but then we're all back in the same position we are now, right? It's terrible. Yeah, Greg, that doesn't make any sense. The West wants war to expand? What does that mean? I don't know what that means. Putin literally invaded Ukraine. I mean, if the West wants war, we did a really bad job of it because Putin started it. Putin started the war in 2014. Putin started the war in 2022. So, I mean, and it's very much our war because it's Russia, and Russia's our biggest enemy right now. China's our biggest long-term enemy. Our overlords probably will love that quote. But Russia's our big enemy right now. And Russia poses the greatest risk to Europe, so it's absolutely our war in the same way World War II was our war. Yeah, sure it is. People who say it's not our war, I find it to be kind of an appeasement argument, and I think it's the kind of argument that leads to more wars. Because literally you say, I'm not getting involved, let the bad guy do what he wants, let him invade whatever countries he wants. Because after all, when has a war in Europe ever led to an international crisis that America got sucked into, right? Some positive news? Well, Ukraine's not going to give up their land. No, not at this point. They're not. No. There isn't any positive news right now. I mean, the only positive news is that things are stabilizing a little in northeastern Ukraine. But I hate this because I don't want to be negative guy, but there isn't that much happy right now going on in Ukraine, But yeah, China's the threat in the longer term, yes. And I do wish we could figure out something with them. But, the fact that they're a communist dictatorship doesn't help in terms of trying to, work something out. How do you work something out with a government that's just sort of inherently immoral and also militaristic? But, North Korea's, well, the problem with North Korea is you can't go, why can't the U.S. go against North Korea? Because North Korea has nuclear weapons and is happy to use them. That's the problem there. Now, person who I think is writing in Chinese, I can't read your name with the star going there. What is Putin's purpose? It depends. I'm not sure what you mean though. What do you mean by that? His purpose with regards to what? In terms of what does he want in Ukraine? I'm not sure what you... Tell me more. What do you mean by that? Oh. All right. There we go. Well, but goal with what? Like, what does Russia want out of the war in Ukraine? What's their ultimate goal, maybe? Thank you, Wolford, for the tiny diny. Please keep the gifts coming, guys. Always try to get a couple new subscribers each show. If you like the show and you've been following for a while and you want to support my work, please do. You can do gifts, certainly, which are great, but also you can become a subscriber, which is like a monthly donor. Thank you, Phoenix, for the gift there. Become a monthly donor. Gives you access to our Saturday show, which is kind of the big thing. Every Saturday, almost every Saturday, I do a show for just the paid monthly subscribers. So it'll be this Saturday at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S., but also you get little emojis and fun stuff like that, you know. But yeah, I think if you're asking exactly what Coop just said, if you're asking about what is Russia's ultimate goal in Ukraine, what does Putin want in Ukraine, he wants all of Ukraine. Putin has said from the beginning, the Russians have said from the beginning, they don't think Ukraine is a real country. They think that Ukraine is basically Russia. And it's a fake, from a Russian perspective, it's a fake country that was created, right? Kind of like, frankly, Middle Eastern countries, actually, not just Middle Eastern countries. Every country is a bit of a fallacy, right? I mean, countries aren't real. It's not like the ethnicity stops at the border and a new, right? I mean, countries were already artificial. But Putin is convinced that Ukraine isn't real. Thank you, Casper. Appreciate that. And that they're all Russians. And he wants it back. He isn't happy about the Soviet Union falling apart. The Soviet Union fell apart in 1991 and ceased to exist. Russia pretty much controlled the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union dissolved, Russia lost control of 14 other countries. Russia basically was the big bad guy dominating the Soviet Union. One of the countries they lost control over was Ukraine. Another 3 countries they lost control over, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and they've been beating them up. They keep threatening them. Another country they lost control over, Georgia, in southern Russia there, northeast of Turkey, right? All countries the Russians are screwing around with because they don't like that they lost control over these countries. So what does Putin want in Ukraine? He wants all of Ukraine to become part of Russia. That's the easiest explanation as to what Putin wants. You know, Brian, don't go spam. You know what, Brian? Mute Brian. There's always a chance he's not a total troll, but he's trolling right now for stocks, which is about as scammy as you can get. So please mute that Brian Schneider guy. He's a scammer. Oh, Jazz, did you change your name? I don't believe it. What, you don't believe Putin wants all of Russia, all of Ukraine? What do you think Putin wants in Ukraine then? I mean, feel free to tell me what you think. I am going to get Yulia back on. I've not talked to her in a bit because I was out of the country, but we'd love to have Yulia back on. Not a bad idea, actually, because it's been a few months. Yeah, I'm happy to get her back on. I mean, I know you guys are also, like, a number of you watch Yulia's show. Feel free to tell her that I'm happy to get her back on again for an update. Well, that's the interesting. Now, that's a very interesting question. Oh, I see. Jazz is a different person. The Chinese-ish person is saying, if Ukraine failed, what is Putin's next step? I'm not sure. A lot of the military experts are very worried about Putin screwing around with Poland, screwing around with the Baltic countries, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, like trying to get land, screwing around with Moldova, certainly, right? Like trying to get Transnistria, absolutely. Part of this depends on whether Putin gets Ukraine, right? You know, does he get stopped where he is now? Does he come back in 5 years? If Putin gets all of Ukraine, then things get a lot scarier because now he's on Poland's border. Now he's on Slovakia's border, Romania's border, right? He's on a number of borders of NATO countries that gets a little scarier. That's a concern. But I think Transnistria is first. I think the Baltic countries, he's going to do something bad. One really big concern is and I'm going to forget again the name. I always get this mixed up with the Fulda Gap in East Germany? What's it called again, guys? Help me out. The corridor right north of northeast Poland and Lithuania. There's a little corridor of land here. What's it called again? Help me out, Europeans. This little piece of land connecting, this little green dot is Russian territory. It's not Volga. It's got a Suwalki. Moo got it correct. It's called the Suwalki Pass or the Suwalki Gap. I forget, Suwalki. And it is a little sliver of land that connects Belarus, which is a Russian puppet state, a dictator, it would connect if the Russians take it, to Kaliningrad, which is this green thing right here. There's a little bit, even try to point out, this little bit of Russia situated right here in the middle of Europe, on the water here, on the Baltic Sea, bordered by Lithuania and Poland. The Russians would love to get their hands on this corridor. Thank you, Taurus. On this corridor, Suwalki corridor. And what this would happen is, because they want a land bridge to Kaliningrad, their territory, if they were to take this land right here between Poland and Lithuania, they would have a connection to Belarus, which connects them to Russia. That's a real concern about what the Russians might go for next. So, yeah. I think that might even be the smartest thing for them to go for next. Because also, too, what you do is you invade, you take a little bit of land, and you say, really? We're going to have an international nuclear war because you're upset I took a little bit of land? Let's negotiate. Suwalki Gap. Is it Gap? It is Gap. Okay. I'm thinking of was it the Fulda Gap? What was the one called in East Germany that we were afraid that the Russian troops would basically use to invade West Germany? Was it Fulda? I think. I remember during the Cold War that was the big concern at the time as far as sort of where the invasion was going to be back then. Fulda Gap. That's what I thought it was, Arian. Yep. That's why I was wondering if this was Gap as well. Suwalki. Or corridor. Anyway. Yeah, Fulda. Yep. Anyway. Exactly. It was going across like East Germany to West Germany there. Anyway, maybe one or two last little things, guys, and then we'll call it quits. You've traveled through there? What, you mean Suwalki, Misha? Or Fulda? I mean, one hopes Poland would wipe them out, but, this is the question. I mean, again, person whose name I don't know what it is because it probably is Chinese, says, does Putin have the guts to fight NATO? No, unless he thinks NATO isn't going to fight back. Thank you, Best Worst, for signing up for Patriot Launcher again. Putin will only fight NATO if Putin thinks NATO isn't going to fight back. And Donald Trump becomes president. If Putin invades to take this little slice of land in Poland and Lithuania, is Donald Trump going to go to war with Russia over a little slice of Lithuania? Even better, forget Poland. Putin goes in and takes the land in Lithuania. He doesn't even take the land in Poland because he knows Poland has a bigger lobby here in America, and Poland spends 4% of its defense on 4% of its budget on defense, which was Donald Trump's rule, right? So Poland's the good guy. So Putin doesn't attack Poland; he attacks Lithuania instead and grabs some land. Is President Donald Trump going to start World War III with Russia over a little piece of Lithuania, or is he going to tell Lithuania to go fly a kite, right? I don't know the answer to that. Vladimir Putin doesn't know the answer to that too. That means Vladimir Putin could possibly launch a war against Lithuania thinking Donald Trump isn't going to get involved. Now the rest of NATO would hopefully get involved. I agree, smart. But this becomes sort of the calculus if you're a Russian leader. You do the cost benefit and say, is NATO really going to go to war over a little piece of land? At the same time, you do a secret deal to give Donald Trump $1 billion hotel in Moscow right before you invade and or even better, you invade and then you give Donald Trump the $1 billion hotel secretly. Now, does Donald Trump weigh in with the rest of NATO? Thank you, Mario, and say, you better not attack the Russians or else? I mean, who the hell knows? You know? But I think absolutely positively all bets are off if Trump is president for any kind of American deterrence anywhere in the world. And exactly the same thing with North Korea and China and everything else too. You know, the assassination today, who the hell knows? I don't know. User 2909 was saying, is it a message to Putin? It could be a message from Putin is the thing. We don't know. Putin could have done it. He could have easily done it. I don't think he did it, but could he have done it? Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it was a message to Putin. I think it's probably more likely that it was a crazy person. You know, vote Jill Stein. If you want to vote for A, a crazy person, and B, Vladimir Putin, definitely vote for Jill Stein. She's this lunatic who runs for the Green Party. And the Green Party in America is not the Green Party of Europe. The Green Party in America is basically fringe crazy people. They're not environmentalists or anything. They're just crazy people. Jill Stein that runs it is this fringe crazy Russian lover, but like Putin lover. She's crazy, absolutely crazy. In any case, there was an assassination attempt today in Slovakia. The Slovak prime minister, who is pro-Russian, was shot multiple times. He's on, the verge of death right now. And supposedly within the next couple hours, we'll decide whether he lives or dies. So, big deal. Bernie Sanders is not crazy. No. I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan because he's way to the left of me, but Bernie Sanders is not crazy. Jill Stein is crazy. Bernie Sanders does not love America's enemies and hate America. I don't know about Jill Stein, but at least Bernie Sanders, I can say, definitely does not love America's enemies. Thank you, Phoenix. Thank you, Elizabeth and Jane. But yeah, sadly, the American Green Party is not the European Green Party, which is too bad. I don't know. Best political leader, I don't know. Especially right now. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think there's anybody that stands out to me as what a neat leader, Thanks, Mario. Oh, but meaning leader in power today. So D-Lyle was saying Reagan. Leader in power today? I don't know. Bill Clinton was very good at what he did. People like to get on Clinton's case, like I said, but Bill Clinton was very good back in the 90s. Bernie Sanders is very left for America. Yeah, very left wing. He was a Marxist. He was literally a Marxist. So, he's very far left for America, yes. But I don't think he's crazy, and I don't think he's a bad man. Like I said, he's just to the left of me, but that's fine. All right, guys, I think let's call it quits. I think Trudeau's pretty good, but I know there's controversy with Trudeau. I don't know enough about Canadian politics. Thank you, Super Hornet. I've always liked Trudeau, but I don't follow Canada enough to know day to day what's going on with their politics, It's hard to say. Macron in France, he's an odd duck. I don't know how long Russia can finance the war. The only thing is the Soviets were able to finance this stuff for decades, right? We kept talking about how the Soviets were going to run out of money, and they kind of did, but it didn't stop them. They just kept going. And Russia's not the Soviet Union. They're poorer than the Soviet Union. They're smaller, but still, I don't know that I've got enough of a grasp on, the Russian sort of ability, especially the fact that Russia's a quasi-dictatorship, the ability of it just to keep going and going and going, But yeah, the Macron thing I find odd. Macron was too much of a peacenik at the beginning of the war, and now he's kind of like a warnik, and he confuses me. I like the Macron the way he is right now. At least what he says. He doesn't do a lot, but he says a lot. That's good. But I'm not totally convinced as to where it's coming from. I would not get into a discussion on buying gold. No, we should not do that here because that's going to come across as being very spammy. I wouldn't know what to tell you anyway. If Putin passed away, we don't know. If Putin were to die, we don't know what happens. Thank you, Ginger. Because there's nobody good in Russia that could take his place, right? It's not like he's surrounded by some really good people that are much friendlier and less warmongery, right? That doesn't exist. Are there worse people? Yes. Are there people just as bad as him? Yes. The best that might happen is that somebody who's more of a government functionary and less of a conspiratorial lunatic takes over. So that they're still not good people, but they're less, Putin's like crazy expansion crap that he's pulling in Europe, Putin could, he could expand to that. That's the concern, that he expands towards Eastern Europe, Jack. That's what the Europeans are scared to death. The people that border Russia are scared to death. And they've been talking about it for years, about the threat Russia poses. And, a lot of what they've been warning about looks to be proven true now about Russia's intentions. And that basically, I say the Soviet Union is back. Yulia, who's a Ukrainian commentator, when she was on, she basically said it never, the Soviet Union never left. That was her perspective, but yeah. All right, good night, Misha. Yeah, we're gonna close in a second anyway here. Anyway. Russia being pro, it'd be nice if Russia were pro. I mean, honestly, I just think it'd be nice if Russia just joined the League of Civilized Nations. Honestly, China too. But China, even worse. Putin, at least in Russia, you've got the Putin dictatorship. But it's not like Russia itself, get rid of Putin. Russia could liberalize if it wanted to. They could try to become more of a democracy. They could try to join the civilized world. China, you've got a whole communist dictatorship in place that's been there for, 75 years-ish, right? 75? Yeah, ish, for China. Maybe more. I don't know, one man dying doesn't get rid of that, But, all right, guys, I think I'm going to call it quits. We're at 25 after. We've been doing almost an hour and a half. As always, I'm going to skip, not as always, but I'm going to skip the recap today since we're already at an hour and 25 minutes. I do not think that this war started because of the U.S., because the Russians invaded. And the second thing is, for anybody who says, oh, the U.S. caused Russia to invade, did we cause the Russians to kidnap thousands of Ukrainian children and try to brainwash them into thinking they're Russians and then give the children away to senior Russian officials? Did we force the Russians to bomb Ukrainian civilians? Did we force the Russians to commit war crimes left and right? I mean, for people who claim they're oppressed, the Russian government does a really good job of doing really horrific things when they invade. They invaded and acted like animals in Ukraine. We didn't force them to do that. We didn't force them to kill women and children. We didn't force them to bomb civilians every single day. They are attacking civilian apartment buildings every day. We made them do that? Maybe what's happening is that the Russian government is just Bucha. Yeah, look at Bucha, exactly, right? Right? What is the U.S. doing in Ukraine? Defending freedom and killing bad guys. Yeah. I have a worldview that says we go in and we help people in trouble if it is in our national interest. And we help kill bad guys if it's in our national interest. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Ginger. I think it is the height of immorality to say, what business do you have helping the drowning man? How dare you? He's drowning. He's not your family. Thank you, user 336, right? Thank you, Taurus, Ginger, for the gifts, right? You don't know the stranger being murdered on the corner, the woman being attacked. Why are you helping her? Right? And they've got the balls to suggest that it's immoral to be helping, right? How dare you help that woman who's being attacked on the corner? How dare you? You must be a bad person because you're helping. You could say I sound biased. You also could say that I sound very ethical and moral, and that you sound like somebody who defends genocide and defends dictatorships. So yeah, that's why we're involved, because it's in our national interest, and we're helping good guys fight bad guys, and I will never have a problem with that. If the world stepped in more and helped good guys stop bad guys, the world would be a better place. World War II was the good guys. By the way, why did we get involved in World War II? It was just some Germans doing stuff somewhere we didn't even live. That was Europe, right? Germans were invading other countries in Europe. Yeah, they were killing people, but why did the U.S. get involved? That was terrible the U.S. got involved, right? Stopping those nice Germans, right? Yeah. And those nice Japanese. Why did we fight those Japanese? We were over in their country fighting. How terrible of us. right? I mean, it's just when you look at historical. I mean, I know why. Don't worry. These people are saying because of Pearl Harbor. I know why we were fighting. I'm saying hypothetically, the same person making the argument of the U.S. should have never been in World War II. That was wrong. Imperialist America fighting those nice Germans and those nice Japanese people. Terrible. So anyway. All right. We're going to sign off, guys. Enough of this. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for your gifts. Thank you for your time. Today's Wednesday. Okay, we got two more shows this week. Thank you, Jeremy. We've got a show tomorrow night and Friday night, 6 o'clock Eastern Time, U.S. Join us for the latest updates on Ukraine. We talk about all politics overall. And then Saturday, the monthly subscribers. Anybody who has a monthly subscription, those of you with SNN next to your name on TikTok, like Elizabeth right there and some of the others, Martin, join us Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time U.S. for a special show just for you guys. For those of you on YouTube, same thing. Any of you who've got the green names, you're the monthly subscribers. I'm not going to do Discord at this hour, Amanda, because it's been an hour and a half. Once we get to Discord, then I'm there for another hour. I can't do 2.5 hours. If we can stop after an hour, that I would do. You know, But after an hour and a half, I feel like, oh, Indonesia. Hey, Indonesia, I was just in your country. Nice to see you. We're actually finishing the show right now on TikTok, but thank you for joining us. I was just in Bali for almost 2 weeks. Ubud, near Lovenia in the north. It was very nice. Especially Ubud. I liked Ubud a lot. It was very nice. So, welcome. Hazbik, you're in Russia. Seriously? Where are you in Russia? We have had, Misha is a Russian we had online when he was in Russia. Are you really in Russia right now, Hazbik? I know some of you are just joking that you are. Just kind of curious before I sign off. Crimea. Oh, interesting. Very interesting. So you're in occupied Ukraine. Interesting. Anyway, yes, you can go to YouTube. The show, TikTok doesn't save the show, which is really annoying. But YouTube does. So the show is on YouTube. You can go check it out. It's John Aravosis, DC, my whole name, John Aravosis, DC, as in Washington, DC. And you can find the latest show right at the top of my page, more or less. But this records there, so at least you guys are able to check it out there. All right? Okay, I'm going to go, guys. Let's talk more tomorrow. I'll be back. We will talk more. All right. Have a good night, everybody. All right. Bye-bye.